Good morning from Johannesburg. We are here at Altron today and we have the privilege to interview the Group Chief Operations Officer of the Altron Group, Mr. Collin Govender. Hello, Collin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for making time in your busy schedule to talk to us. We really appreciate it. It's always interesting for our followers and readers to learn more about people in the industry, who they are, what they do, and how they got there. So let's start off by your role here at Altron and what you do.
So I've been in the role since March this year. I'm the Chief Operations Officer. I've got multiple portfolios, HR being one of them, including the CIO portfolio, strategy execution, ESG, as well as real estate and a few other bits and pieces. So it's quite a diverse group of responsibilities. Yeah, but I'm really enjoying myself. I've been with the group for 7 years. I joined in 2017 as the shared services executive. I did that job for about 3 years and then ran two of the operations, Carabina as well as the systems integration division. And since March, I've been back at group and yeah, I really enjoy my time here.
Fabulous. That's quite a few portfolios to have. The property one is interesting. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Property is one of those things, it's about just driving efficiency across the board. And we've got, as you can imagine, premises across the country. It's really about providing the best place to work for our people, but at the same time making sure it's quite efficient and well run.
And in terms of, you have very large properties, but you do have a policy where people can work at home.
Yeah, so we have a hybrid working policy and it's determined by the operations. If you look at the Altron Group, we've got basically two fundamental areas. We've got a platform business, we've got an IT services business. In the platform business, that's Netstar, Health Tech and FinTech. Again, depending on the dynamics, you can imagine Netstar being at the office is important because you are saving lives on a daily basis. You know, FinTech has got a combination of those things, people on the road as well as people in the office. And health tech also, similarly, you know, you have professionals in the background working on making sure we support the doctors, but there are also people on the road as well. And in our IT services business, there's people that are consultants who predominantly work actually from home and from the customer side. And then we have people like in the service desk and kind of field services, which are more kind of office bound across the board.
Absolutely. We have met before.
Yes, we have.
We were both involved in the ICT Academy, which I think a lot of our followers and readers will know about, who is unfortunately no longer in the same format, but you obviously have a very long history involved in the industry and in skills specifically. You told me an interesting story. Tell us how you got into IT as a career.
So I did reasonably well in school and I got a bursary for the first year to go to study a BSc Comp Science. I did the first year, but unfortunately the funding ran out. So having a single mom, I had to take a job. So I took a job as a forklift driver and a warehouse laborer. It was the way to put money on. I remember my first paycheck was 320 Rand a week, but I loved working there. I absolutely loved it. You know, it taught me about strong work ethic, getting up in the morning, discipline, being on time. But I loved the time there, and it taught me basic things. They started to implement a computer system. I had some background in computers, having done a first year BSc Comp Science, and pretty much got involved with that team. But it took somebody who looked at my capability and went, I really want to try and back you. And I got that opportunity from the MD to do that. And I pretty much learned everything, how to build PCs, how to build networks, coding from scratch. And I did a lot of technical certifications during that period. I was a CNE, which is a certified Novell engineer. People don't even know what Novell is these days. I was an AS400 administrator. I was a dual principal CLP, Lotus professional. Those people that don't know what Lotus Notes are today. But that's how I got into IT. And I took over as an IT manager there at that business over a number of years. And then I moved to Johannesburg in 2000, joined a company called T-Systems. So I was there for 17 years. And pretty much did every job, I think, except the CFO's job, which I'm kind of okay with.
I'll pass.
But I was the HR director there. Although I have a strong IT background, I was the HR director there for 3.5 years. And I was strongly involved in the ICT Academy at that stage. We helped run it at that point in time. So, based on my history and, not having finished my degree, but having technical certifications under my belt, it created the opportunity for me to earn a living for my family. But at the same time, you get taken seriously because you're able to do things with the certifications and the skills that you gain. And so, supporting something like the ICT Academy was quite an important piece of our puzzle as a company. But for me personally, to have people come out of that ICT Academy with a certification they could use, they could be employable, it was something that created a completely different trajectory for people's lives.
And they were sought after.
Absolutely. I remember in every single graduation ceremony that we used to have the alumni come through, one or two of them come and speak.
That's right.
I distinctly remember this one particular person from Standard Bank who got a SAP certification and went through the ranks at through the academy, but got employed by Standard Bank and it ended up becoming quite a senior manager there after a number of years. And that's the possibility that you create when corporate South Africa, people get involved and are helping other people gain skills that they can be employed in. And if I take our opportunity and our responsibility as corporate South Africa, we almost have a moral responsibility to drive skills development in the country because that creates the dignity of having a job and at the same time helping this country move forward.
Absolutely. So the majority of the individuals that we look after or that we service are those who don't have an opportunity to go to university. So it's something that's very close to my heart because not everybody has that opportunity. So I think your example will be really great for people, and we firmly believe that certifications are much more hands-on and it gets the job. Not that we have anything against degrees, I think they have a place.
Of course.
And in the ICT Academy's case, they had both. But they didn't have an IT qualification. It was a BBA degree.
Yeah, it was a BBA degree, yeah.
Yes, so it's just about, for some companies, it's just about having the degree. And then on top of that, other things. But it's not necessary. So I want to come back to your HR side.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about skills development at the Altron Group. It's a massive group. It's a large employee base.
Yes.
What is your methodology here?
So maybe let me just do a little bit of background on Altron just for a bit, and then I'll fill the puzzles in. So as I've shared, we've got these two arms, but we're 4,600 people locally.
That's great.
And for that kind of size of company, you would imagine even if you churn 10% of your employees on a yearly basis, which is kind of well under the benchmark of about 17%,
That's right.
you still got to build skill and drive skills development across the board. So the group has got a diverse set of businesses and has got different sets of skills required at different points in time. And so you can't take a generic approach to skills development across the board, but there's a core that you can get around. So what we do, and we operate in a very, very high scarce skills environment, right? You take the competitors that we have to deal with. Amazon setting up in South Africa, them employing people, paying in dollars. COVID was an interesting dynamic shift for us from a skills perspective where people were able to remotely work, but earn in dollars and pounds and whatever the case may be. So attracting talent is one thing, but at the same time, how do you continue to build skill?
Yes.
So we've got multiple ways that we attack it. The first one is we do graduate programs, we do internships, and we have a program called Ascent, which we partner with you on particularly. I'll get back to that just now. And then there's normal run-of-the-mill. We sit down with an employee, we work out what the scarce skills are. Let's say data science is a scarce skill, which it is, data analytics, whether it's AI. How do we now augment what they currently have at a skills-based level and bring point courses from the likes of a CompTIA, or do they need to go and do a degree or a very, very specific set of training? And then we augment that training with those individuals. Now, my philosophy on these things are, we are going to lose good people. No matter how great your environment is, sometimes people there's a season for them to be with you and they move on. I think we need to make peace with that and rather actually focus on, again, driving additional skills development. And with these programs that we have, we find ourselves in a unique position to be able to do that. So if I take Ascent is a program which we literally launched in June this year.
That's right.
It's to provide bursaries to students who otherwise would not have been able to. And when we were thinking about this, we said, let's start at home. Why not start with the kids of our employees?
Which is fantastic. I love the idea. I'm
it's a
glad to say
beautiful
we
thing.
were there from the beginning.
Yes, you were. And you helped co-create this first piece of the puzzle, right? Because we wanted to do something now. We didn't want to wait for the new academic year to start something. And partnering with CompTIA was exceptional because you were able to help navigate what are the areas that are scarce skills, can match it back to our business, and then at the same time create the opportunity for these 6 incredible young individuals we've been granted an opportunity to do that now and to work with you and build through it. I mean, I listen to Sajida, who runs our L&D competence at head office, and I listen to the work that you guys are doing in conjunction with us. It's incredible because not only are you helping them to navigate the difficulties of just learning, but just augmenting some additional coaching in the background is an incredible way to do that. So we see a strong future of building both from a technical skills perspective, but also we started actually our new intake right now for the new academic year to support degreed individuals as well. But we will always augment it with technical skills and certification. Because the depth of understanding some of these platforms, the technologies, how things work, such a long cycle of continual learning, that is almost the skill that you need to teach everybody, is lifelong learning across the board.
I go to a lot of companies and I do our free skills gap assessment.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we see a lot is the lack of foundational skills, and that's where CompTIA comes in very well, because no matter where you go in IT, those skills stay with you. It's the same as your first year degree. It's skills that will always stay with you. Nobody can take it away from you. So is that something that you see as well in the industry?
Look, I think the paradigm has shifted from an education perspective.
Yes.
Where the long degree story, while it serves its place, for me, degrees are important, right? It's a discipline thing. It's your ability to have resilience, grit, to see these things through, and to be put under pressure. And so it creates, outside of the competence component, it teaches you how to see something through.
Yes.
So there's a lot of value in that. However, if you look at how quickly this industry is moving, and just kind of finding yourself in the middle of quite a big storm around artificial intelligence and how things are being driven and learned, finding a way to augment your current learning and to quickly assimilate content is such an important piece of that puzzle.
Tell me a little bit more. I think you have touched on it a little bit. How do you attract skills to the company? Is it mostly through your projects and you take those people on, or do you go out and look for talent as well?
I think it's all of the above. Look, Altron has, you wouldn't believe this, but Altron is a 60-year-old company.
Wow,
right?
really?
So we've been around for a long
crazy.
time. And it's seen so many different cycles over the years, but it's always been able to reinvent itself. But most people in this country actually don't know Altron. They don't know who we are, what we're about. The fact that more than 40% of the doctors in this country run our platform. So when you go and do a medical aid transaction, that switching that happens in the background, there's a likelihood that we are running with it.
Okay.
The POS terminals that you have at some of the big retailers.
I've seen it at PayPoints.
Yeah,
yes.
you'll see our branding there,
Altron.
but people don't know that. So, normal day-to-day process, you're able to, we touch people's lives on a daily basis. But the ability to attract talent is not the same story.
Yes.
So part of what we're trying to do now is to start to tell some of our stories, the impact that we're having in customers, the impact that we have in the communities on a day-to-day basis, but most importantly, the impact that we have on people. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, it is the exciting work that we have. And creating that visibility with people around how we show up and what we're busy with creates that opportunity for that. But the graduate programs that we have are so attractive in the way that it's structured and geared and put together that we almost by word of mouth are starting to create a bit of a movement to say, if you want to go and get your accelerated career done, go to Altron, because they've got it together.
Fabulous. And where do you recruit people for the graduate program?
Predominantly out of universities, but we've taken a slightly different approach now. Yes, we recruit from the Stellenbosches, the Wits, the Tuks, etc. But you know what's fascinating for me is that the second-tier universities don't get the best opportunities at companies. So there's this book I read by Malcolm Gladwell, where he says, I hate the Ivy League. And the reason for that is all these big universities have got such big endowments that they have, and they attract funding all of the time. It's these second-tier universities that don't get funding, and their students are not as regarded. But if you think about what a student at a second-tier university had to go through to firstly get that opportunity to be there, to be able to be trained, to deal with some of the life circumstances that they have to deal with, the level of grit and resilience and raw courage that sits with those students is incredible. So we've taken a slightly different approach, and so we focus on those second-tier universities. And I promise you, the quality of the talent that comes through is just on a different level. And without being funny about it, you know, the reality is a lot of those students are grateful for the opportunity. They don't come with an entitled view of the world. They are grateful that they're able to put food on the table for their families. And I'm not saying that all students from the big universities are entitled, but it's a very different way of looking at life. And so we want to take a balanced approach as an organization to serve both those underserved communities, but also the primary ones.
Great information. I love it, of course, because it's the individuals we look after. I love the fact that you're looking at people that don't normally get those opportunities, because there's a lot of programs that are being run for graduates that come from good universities. And to me, it should be about the individual that doesn't get the opportunity.
Yes.
So my last question to you is, what advice would you have for young people who want to get into IT as a career? You've given a little bit along the way, but what would you say to young people? What should they do to get into IT? What should they do to get that interview? All of those.
I think let's separate the two topics.
Yeah.
I think let's focus on the IT piece, but then there's the human being piece, right?
Yes.
From an IT piece, I think having a certification of some sort, whether it's A+, N+, it creates the opportunity for you to put your foot in the door.
Yes.
It's not you arriving there without any view, oh, I love IT, I want to get into IT. No, 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 no.
Exactly.
Why are you interested in it? So understand the drivers behind IT and pick the areas that you should be involved with. So if you look at scarce skills currently in the country, data science, data and AI, application development, augmenting your current capability, being able to use some of these large language models to be able to do what you do. That's going to be an interesting skill to have going forward. Not necessarily understanding the detail of every single line of code, but how do you do prompts? How do you ensure that you use these engines to be able to do that? And create, even if you don't get paid, go and do some volunteer work at some companies so you can start to get some work experience through this. And that creates the credibility on your CV to be able to get into the IT industry across the board. Then if you take the human being, for me, it's even more fundamental what you need to do.
I agree with you.
Find mentors, find coaches. Don't think you know everything. You know, I find the people that are so self-consumed that they lock down the opportunity to be able to learn. If your cup is already full, how are you able to add more to it? You must empty yourself out and allow yourself to be taught and trained as part of the process. So find people in the background. Find something that grounds you as a human being. You know, in terms of whether it's your spirituality, whether it's something that you do in the community, find something that grounds you at a purpose level that you can connect to. And then lastly for me, most importantly, is this lifelong learning story. Don't think you've arrived. You know, always look for opportunity to be able to augment your learning across the board. And yeah, that'll serve you well.
We hear about, I know I said it's the last question, but we hear about company culture a lot as well. And I'm sure that's the same here at Altron too.
Yes.
And that's where the human factor comes into. It's also how you approach. I saw an interview of a guy that said he didn't really have all the skills the company wanted, but he said to them, I'll know by the time that I start, I'll know more. I know a little bit, but I'll know more. So it's also a willingness to learn and to do more.
You know, on that point, one of my favorite videos that I've seen of late, and it's such an incredible piece of advice. It comes from Barack Obama, believe it or not, right? And the interviewer asked him, so how do you pick the people that you back? And he says, it's actually quite simple. We'll be in a situation room, there'll be some crisis, there's something that's happening. And you know, you have the people that describe the problem incredibly well. But then you ask them, okay, so what must we do about it? And they go, hang on, I've told you what the problem is. That's my job done. There's always one person or two people that will pick up their hand and say, leave this with me, I've got this. I don't know how to solve it, but leave it with me, we'll figure it out as we go. And he says, those are the people that are back. It's not necessarily the people with the competence. It's people with the attitude that are willing to take the opportunity and go with it and say, let's try and figure something out. Let's work together. Let's try and solve this problem together.
Yes.
That's how you get ahead.
Yep.
And so when you arrive in a company that values this, you will move ahead. Don't expect the company and the ecosystem to do things to you. You've got to pick your hand up and say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Leave this with me.
Spot on.
Perfect.
Spot on. Thank you so much, Collin. It was really great
pleasure
to chat to you. Fantastic advice for everybody and information that you shared with us. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Hope it's not the last time.
I'm
We'll
sure
be
not.
back. And that concludes our discussion or chat with Collin Govender. I think he shared a lot of interesting information today, not only career advice, but also what Altron is all about and what they do and the opportunities that they offer. So I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.